We talk to the legends of the creative and entertainment industries. We talk to those on the rise. Lance Dean Anthony Nielsen asks about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is Outcast Creative, and this is Industry Interviews.
Well, for a change, I won't be asking about highs and lows of my guest. My guest will be asking me about the highs and lows of my job, because today I'm being interviewed by the amazingly talented Imogen Weeble. Here she is.
Hello.
Welcome to the stream. So
I'm ready.
I'm ready for your questions. Please fire away.
Okay, so obviously I feel like we don't know that much about each other still yet, because we
Really
only see each other at raves.
We only really know each other's cool dance moves, and
Yes,
I
exactly.
know your parents fairly well, but that aside,
Yes.
indeed.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to firstly get like a little bit of background about you. So like growing up, what did you do as a kid, like activities and stuff like that got you into like creative stuff?
So I was always really passionate about acting and performing. I was in all the school college plays, was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, played Mike TV's dad. I did Bugsy Malone on stage with the same production, not the same company. There were 6 companies of 30 kids in each company. But Catherine Zeta-Jones was in one of those companies as Tallulah.
Oh, wow.
And I was in another company as an understudy for Dandy Dan. Hey there, gang, that we're beginning to see. That's what they call him, Dandy. See, I still remember the song. I had my own song, which wasn't in the movie. So, you know, I kind of had the acting bug, but then I went to college. I went to art college, some School of Art and Design, which is now Farnham University, part of Farnham University. And I studied audio visual design, and I sort of realized that maybe I wanted to get more into writing and directing. And after a few kind of segues and diversions in 1997, I directed my first play about the Hillsborough football disaster. And that sort of sent me on this track of tackling social issue based dramas. And here we are, God knows how long later, and I've done 15 plays, 3 feature films, one of which is any good, the other 2 not so much. And then I also work as an acting coach, because I'm very experienced at sort of working with performers and getting the best out of them and doing self-tapes and that kind of thing. And I do script editing for people. I'm also an author. I've got 14 books out. So now I also do things like help people, teach them how to prep to write their first book and stuff like that. So it's all kind of connected. It's all creative, writing, directing, producing, acting, that kind of thing, basically. There you go. There's a bit of an overview.
I love it. Were your parents quite creative as well, or was it kind of you that just off on your own?
No, they were. I'm adopted, and I mean, sort of both sets of my parents were quite creative. So the parents that brought me up, who were basically my parents, Barbara Nielsen and Gunnar Nielsen, wonderful people. My mother was a ballet dancer and choreographer. And actually, she used to, when I used to go dancing, I used to dance on the podium. She used to help me choreograph all my dance moves and stuff.
Oh.
And then my father was a graphic designer, so I was never going to become an accountant. What's even more strange is that my birth father was this guy called Lionel Morton, and I didn't discover that I was Lionel's kid until I think I was 28, around that sort of time. And Lionel used to be a children's television presenter. In fact, he used to present a program called Play School, and he also did Play Away. And these were both shows that I used to watch as a kid growing up. So you can imagine that that's quite strange to sort of find out that your birth father was in fact on television, and you were watching him as a child as you were growing up. You can see I've got his eyes. I'll show you a quick picture. This is what's useful about using this software. So me and him have got very, if I take my glasses off, we've got kind of similar, quite similar eyes, quite a similar nose. I've got quite a similar sort of small mouth to him. We don't look that much alike, but I look exactly like my birth mother's dad. Like,
Right.
I haven't got a picture of him anymore, but if I did, it's me as an old guy.
Wow.
And he looks really handsome and distinguished. So I'm just going to get better looking the older I get. So
Absolutely.
that's quite useful. It's quite useful to know when you're younger. Yeah. So I mean, it's quite weird that I ended up, with this sort of finding out in my 20s that actually my dad was somebody I used to watch on TV growing up. It was pretty odd.
What a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, I met him. I met my real mum as well. That was a very brief meeting. I stayed in touch with Lionel a bit longer. But yeah, I mean, that the relationship with them didn't really go anywhere, and we just sort of lost touch. And he lives in Cornwall somewhere. I've got loads of half brothers and sisters through him. Some of whom
Oh,
never even
really?
met. Yeah, about 11, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll be at a rave someday, and someone's going to come up to me and say, "Hey, we've got the same dad," and I won't be like the least bit surprised when that happens.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, but there you go.
So you said you went to Epsom School of Art and Design. Obviously, now
Yeah.
that's Farnham UCA, which is
I think it got
in the same group
incorporated
as me.
into
Yeah.
Farnham. Is that where you go? Is that?
So I go to Epsom UCA.
So the
Very
building
bizarre.
that I was at, I can tell you exactly where it was. You go up to the end of the high street, you turn off, and you're walking along, and it's that red brick building, quite an ugly building, on the left, and on the right is the girls' school up on the hill on the other side, just across from the park.
Oh, I don't know.
And I could show you on Google Earth. Well, I'll show you at the end of the interview. But
Okay.
that's where I used to go to. That's where I used to go to art school, and I had a lot of fun there. I was taught by John Burke, who was the brother of the actress Kathy Burke.
Oh, I love Kathy Burke.
Yeah, Kathy Burke from Kevin Perry Go Large. So I was taught by her brother, and I bumped into Kathy about 2 years ago at the Park Theatre. And I recognised her, and I said, "Look, you've got a brother called John. He taught at Epsom." And I had a brochure for my play that I'd just done about the post office scandal. And I said, "It would mean an awful lot if you gave this to him from me, so he can see I sort of, ended up doing some good things." And she said she passed it on, and I put my phone number on it. I never heard from him, so I don't know if he got it. Maybe she left it on the tube. Who knows? But
it's nice to show appreciation, though, that obviously he's had an impact on what you're doing.
yeah, he was good. He was a good teacher. He was. It was kind of weird, our course, because we were on audiovisual design. We wanted to be filmmakers. The course was undersubscribed, and about 6 weeks in, they basically told us our course was merging with graphic design, and we could either like it or lump it. And we were all like, now we were all officially on the graphic design course. And I didn't want to become a graphic designer because I wasn't very good at the fine art side of things. I just wasn't great at that. I had enough trouble using a Letraset set, if you can remember those. And I was very upset. I wanted to make films, and so I stayed on the course and I finished it, but I lost a lot of focus and spent a lot of time up on some downs, wandering about and writing stories in my notebook and shit, rather than actually sitting in lectures that I didn't care about.
Yeah.
So and doing other kind of little projects of my own. So it was a weird time. It was fun.
Yeah, it's nice that you didn't lose motivation, though, because I've been through that stuff where you've been given assignments or whatever that are not interesting to you at all, but to keep going and not kind of give up is really amazing.
Yeah, I think every assignment should have relevance to helping you with your chosen career. I mean, obviously, when you're a teenager, 18, 19, 20 or 22, whatever, you're not necessarily going to know, I want to become a cameraman, I want to become a director, I want to become a makeup artist, I want to become a costume designer. You might still be juggling your way through those things, working out which one is for you, or getting into AI and computer imaging and all that stuff, which is of course very much in demand. But whatever assignment they're giving you should be relevant somehow in either enhancing skills that you don't have, or teaching you a skill that would be useful, or helping you decide which one of those areas you might want to go into. I mean, we used to get given some right bollocks to do it. So, we're going to do a project about hands. You're going to photograph hands today. And I was like, why? Why are we doing that? Like, why can't I, I'd rather actually photograph some miniatures and learn how to light miniatures. You can see I've got a load of them behind me. So I would just go off and do something completely different, and I'd bring it back and show John and said, look, I didn't really do that, but I did this instead. And he'd always be quite pleased with what I did. But we were told to do some right nonsense sometimes.
This is the thing as well with art, because it's so subjective. I've heard a lot of people in the creative industry, they're doing their uni assignments and they're sticking to the brief, but because of what they've chosen, the lecturers are giving them complete hell for it.
Listen, it's weird. I mean, we went up to this conference centre in Hoddesdon, North London, one time. We stayed there for the weekend, and it was people from the same course all over the country. So we were there there was about 10 teams of students, and and I think about 15 students went from our course, and broke up into three teams, just our course. And we were basically told to come up with an advert for one of four things, and one of the four things was a deodorant, no, do you know what, everybody had to do the advert for deodorant, sorry, but there were four different types of brief that you could subscribe to, and there were four music tracks, and they were absolutely adamant at the beginning, you have to use one of the music tracks, right? And the girls who won the competition, they did a really funny video. It was really clever. I mean, it's a long time ago, so I can't remember the details. But the one thing I do remember is they just said, "Oh, bollocks to this! Why are we?" Because in the real world, you wouldn't be limited to four music tracks that somebody else suggested you. If you're an advertising company, that would be your job to go off and find the music. You would tell them why. So they basically just said, no, we're not doing it that way. We're going to choose our own music. And they won. They won the competition. And they got music that was appropriate to the video they came up with. Whereas the rest of us were all stuck with, one of them with this kind of Wild West theme, which is really weird. We had this one that was a bit more kind of a bit like a trance thing. That was the one we ended up using. That was a prediction of my future tastes. And then there was another one that was kind of like classical music, and a couple of people used. And I can't remember. But, none of them were great. And these girls, they went and got this kind of weird, kind of funny French theme tune, because their advert totally went for comedy, and it was great. It was really funny. I really liked what they did.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Next question.
Cool. So, obviously, you do a lot of writing. What has inspired you most to kind of get into writing?
Well, I like to tell stories, and I have one of my brochures, my work is here. Oh, this has got all the programs of all the different shows that I've done. So, like, this is Borderlands, and there's False Accounts, there's Sticks and Stones, which is the play I did about the conflict in Northern Ireland. So I did Hillsborough, and after I did Hillsborough, I decided I wanted to write about things that I thought were important, and I didn't always want to send a message down people's throats, but I was very interested in presenting facts and letting people decide. And one of my favourite plays that I directed of all time was this one, Sticks and Stones, and I It was about the conflict in Northern Ireland. It followed 3 families from Bloody Sunday, which took place in 1972 when the British Parachute Regiment opened fired on unarmed civilians in Derry, escalating the conflict massively. They killed, I think, 11 or 13 of these young men and wounded several others. And that was the starting point for the beginning of my play, was the day before Bloody Sunday. And then I followed these 3 families all the way through to the peace process. And I knew not all of them were going to make it. I knew not all the characters would make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, right, the starting point for this story, or the first scene that I'm going to write, because this is a great, valuable lesson with writing. Always write the scene that is clearest in your head first, and that might be the ending. It might be this great action scene that you've got in your head. It might be this confrontation between the good guy and the bad guy, or it might be a moment of reveal, you know, where somebody, you're my son, or whatever. So I had the scene where this British Army was on patrol in the street. A really young British soldier. He's just had a conversation with his best mate about, after this tour, he's going home. He's quitting the army. He's only in the army because his dad forced him in the army, because there was a tradition of their kids being in the army. And then I've got this young guy who's been recruited by the IRA. He's with this very kind of serious, seasoned IRA guy who's taking him out on his first ambush. And this is the first time he's going to fire a shot at someone, and he's kind of shaking, you know, like this. And I thought, at some point in this scene, one of these people is going to kill the other person. And that's going to have massive consequences for both of these families.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a key scene in this story. And I don't know where this scene is going to go, but that's the first scene that I wrote. And as a result of writing that first scene, I knew that there would be a reason this young kid who didn't want to fire this gun joined the IRA. So the next scene I wrote was kind of what had led to him joining the IRA. Then I knew that this British kid he joined the army but didn't want to join the army. So then I wrote the scene around the dinner table at his house in the UK with the very dominant father and rather repressed mother. And then I decided he had a brother who had decided not to join the army. So the brother was the black sheep of the family. And then the brother was dating this girl. This girl's friend was black. And he said, oh, you know, you've got to come out on a double date with me. And so the soldier ends up dating the black girl, which the father hates. And so all these other kind of narratives all span off from that one first scene that I created. And that scene ended up being in the middle of the play. It ended up being at the end of the second act, or halfway through Act 2, something like that. So it ended up being roughly around 1985, 1986 in the timeline. And yeah, and from that one scene, all of the other scenes all kind of self-developed. I was never stuck. I had a historical timeline of all the stuff that really happened in history as well, and I was paralleling those narratives. There's really good drama set on the Troubles on Disney Plus at the minute, and it's called Say Nothing, and it's predominantly about these 2 sisters who joined the IRA. They conducted the first bombing campaign in London, which was reality for me because my father worked up in Regent Street. This is why I was interested in this subject, because I lived through it as a kid. Not, you know, I wasn't in the war in Northern Ireland, but my father was very much in the firing line because he worked in central London around where all the bombs were going off. He had just come out of Harrods the day that the bomb went off in Harrods. He'd literally just been there.
Oh my gosh.
So my mum was like terrified that Dad was going to get killed. This was a recurring thing. She was always so pleased when he came through the door. You know, I've got very vivid memories of that sort of emotional stuff, and that stays with you. And then that became sort of later in life. That's why I was always very interested in what were the building blocks of this conflict that I didn't really understand. And we had a very British perception of what had happened, and we were kind of taught to hate the IRA and not really ask any questions about, you know, why they formed in the first place. So I tried to write a play that was quite balanced, didn't have a political agenda. I wasn't trying to tell the audience to root for this person or root for this person. I just wanted to tell a story about how innocent people got caught up in this thing. And Hillsborough was very similar. It was two fictional families that got caught up in the Hillsborough football disaster. I did another play about Marchioness, but that was a reconstruction of the inquiry. So that was edited transcripts from a public inquiry that got turned into a play. And I've done 3 public inquiry plays. Done the Victoria Clevier inquiry as well, the big child abuse scandal in Haringey, which, and I live in Haringey, so you know.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm that, you know, it's all about telling stories that are that interest me, but also that I think will educate or touch the public that are going to watch the play in some
Yeah,
way.
absolutely.
I mean, I do write
Yeah.
comedies as well, but no one ever comes to see those. so,
Oh,
so I've always done.
I'll come and see one.
That's well, good. I mean, I've always done quite a lot of serious stuff. But and several of my plays are available on Amazon. You know, Sticks and Stones. You can buy Sticks and Stones on Amazon. You can get the Marchioness Inquiry on Amazon. The Victoria Clevier Inquiry, I think we're going to put on Amazon this year. So I think
Nice.
there's about 6 or 7 of my plays are on Amazon, and I'm
Yeah.
going to try and publish all of them. So all my work is there for people to have. You know, when I'm gone, kind of thing, it'll still be there.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
Sorry, it was a bit of a
Oh,
long-winded answer, but quite helpful, I think.
it's all right. Yeah, no, definitely. Because like, it always fascinates me how people can write things like this, because I'm not creative in that way at all. And just to hear people have all these ideas flowing out of their head, it honestly baffles me.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm mostly writing books now. I'm writing a book at the moment, and which is about my journey back to raving and some. Oh, sorry. Let me turn
That's
this
all
off.
right.
Oh, shit. Hang on. Let me. I've got to answer this. Can I just
Yeah, no worries.
do this for 2 seconds? Sorry, that was actor Jason Fleming, who actually he and his children inherit all my work. I've left it to them, and
nice.
he's on set at the minute filming the latest series of Trigger Point, and he's playing the villain. I spoke to him when he was on set earlier, but he's I know why he's calling. He's concerned about that CT scan thing, so he wants to find out what's going on. So,
Oh,
but I've
bless
told
him.
him to call me back in 30. So, but this is
Perfect.
just the beauty of recording. This is we can edit it all out and stuff. So,
Be all good.
okay, all right. Let me put that on vibrate so that if my phone goes off again, it won't be quite so intrusive. My apologies. Very unprofessional.
That's okay.
Normally have that all prepared. So yeah, so we came to another question, didn't we? Let's just recap.
Yeah, so you talk about you were writing your books. You're writing your book at the moment.
Yeah, so I've written about 6 novels. The first was this science fiction thing that I started writing in 2017. And writing books was a whole different skill set for me because I'd only written plays and screenplays up until 2017. And I've been doing that for the best part of 30 years. Writing a novel was very different. I mean, obviously there are skills you can apply, but you know, it's all the proofreading and the grammar and getting the flow right. And new writers tend to overwrite. You tend to over describe everything. You tend to write far more than you need. and I met this very successful American author at the London Book Fair, and he gave me a great piece of advice. He said, if you can write a sentence that you've written in 200 words and say the same thing in 2 words, say it in 2. So I took that and I went back through the book and I hacked, and I reduced this book from 600 pages to 400. And it's still a bit overwritten, but that went out. Actually, that was this one that went out. That's book 1, and then this is book 2, which is slightly thinner. And this is supposed to be 6 books, and I'm supposed to do the 3rd one this year. So there's those, and then my most recent book is Silver Screen Journeys, which is kind of a biography. But it's my life seen through 128 times that I went to the cinema, and who I went to see the films with, what the films meant to me at the time, what they mean to me now, and sort of, you know, the different memories I've got connected to those films. So it's a bit of a kind of film journal, but at the same time, it's a bit of a life journal. I talk about people I've lost. There's a picture of Jason actually there, look, on the page. So he's mentioned in the book several times. And that book was really quite cathartic, because I was coming out of my last relationship. I mean, I've been out for a couple of years, but I decided to cut off all contact with that partner because it was just quite toxic. And I was writing that book when that happened, and it was quite. The whole thing was quite cathartic, doing the book, closing that chapter of my life and sort of moving on. And I was writing that book at the time that I started going out raving, and that had such a massive effect on my mental health in a positive way. That was the only reason I was able to write that book, because writing is quite a solo thing, quite a solitary thing. You do it on your own.
Yes.
But you know, you're writing towards an end goal, and the end goal does involve other people. If you're doing a book, someone's got to proofread it. Someone's got to. Ideally, you would have an editor. Sometimes you can't afford one, but ideally you would have one. Someone's going to design the cover. You're going to talk about how you're going to market it. These all involve other people, but the writing process is something you do on your own.
Yeah. So, in terms of your books, obviously you've seen loads of films and stuff. Do you have a film that stands out most to you, like your favorite all-time film? Because I'm very intrigued to know.
I get asked that question quite a lot, and it's really hard to pick one. When I was younger, I always used to say that one film that hit me really quite powerfully was a film starring Robin Williams, which the late great Robin Williams, which I find quite hard to watch now because it's a very moving film. It always hits me in the feels, as people like to say, and that's Dead Poets Society. It's directed by Peter Weir, who's a really accomplished director. It's kind of set in I think it's set in the late 50s. It's sort of in that time after World War II where everything is quite conservative. You know, the hippie era hasn't quite kicked in yet. Vietnam hasn't happened yet. So it's kind of around 59, 1960, maybe 61, that kind of time. And it's about a group of boys that go to an elite school, one of these elite schools that is designed to get you into one of the top tier Harvard, you know, the top 10, they call them the Ivy League schools. You go to an Ivy League school, you get an Ivy League job. And it's about one of those prep schools, private prep schools, all boys, and this group of boys who get a new English teacher, played by Robin Williams, Mr. Keating, and he kind of inspires them to think out of the box and to, you know, think for themselves rather than to be molded by their parents into what the parents want them to be. So there's a lot of stuff in there that I really relate to. I'm very much an individualist. I consider myself to be quite a unique person. You know, I'm not easily swayed on a topic. I always like to know for myself which way I'm going to think. I like to research rather than, you know, vote this way or vote that way, or
Absolutely.
then another one of the themes in the film is loss, and one of the characters in the film dies. And when I saw this film, this friend of mine, Jamie, had just passed away a year earlier from an asthma attack, very suddenly, very abruptly. And his death hit me really, really hard. Didn't get over it for quite a long time. And it was actually the subject of my first feature film. And then dealing with bereavement became like a recurring theme in a lot of my work. My main movie, which I don't know if you watched it, but I sent you the link to watch it, the one set in Greece called The Journey. Did you see any of it?
Yeah, I haven't managed to get round to it yet, but I will.
Well, that really is a film about dealing with loss. And you know, it's it's very much about people trying to sort of overcome the loss of people they care about who went before their time. And I had that film was inspired by the loss of another friend, a friend of mine called Angela Thomas, who I was writing. She was writing a book about her life and wanted to write a play about her life as well. So I was helping her write that play. And that was basically how me and her met. But The Journey is on my YouTube channel. And ultimately, I mean, I won't tell you the story of why, but ultimately I ended up putting this film on the channel for free, and it's here. This one here, The Journey feature film. So it's a 2-hour movie. Anybody can watch it. It's had 3,500 views already. And then there's a 45-minute or hour-long making of The Journey here as well.
Yeah.
So there's like a really good behind the scenes.
I love it
there's
behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. There's some other bits and bobs of other things I've done as well. There's a lot of stuff about false accounts. There's some stuff little videos and things I did about the Hillsborough anniversary and stuff like that. I did a whole load of work in lockdown. Made the best of lockdown. I had a pretty good lockdown actually.
A productive lockdown, unlike a
Very
lot of other people.
I wrote 30 scripts in lockdown.
That's insane.
And, it was insane. What we were doing was we were doing these live streams of these scripts. Because I'm an acting coach, I would get 20 or so actors to read this play or screenplay that I'd written. And then I was like, no, hang on a minute. Why don't we live stream this like you and I are now? We did it on Zoom, which could accommodate a larger number of people. And I kind of said, why don't we live stream this? And how about if we kind of get everybody to put costumes on? And how about if we kind of get everybody to have a green screen behind them, that they can have matching backgrounds. So if you've got two characters, for example, talking in a restaurant, they could both have the same matching background for the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And so we talked about that and actually realized that we could do quite a lot with this, and that became the productions that we did in lockdown. I think we did about 7 productions. The best one was 13 Seconds in Kent State, which there's a massive poster for on the wall just behind my Lego Death Star here. And this is it. It was performed live, so the actors couldn't make any mistakes. If somebody got disconnected from their internet, there was nothing we could do about it. The show must go on. So it had this whole thing. It had this opening titles, had this So that's somebody. So this is the first character doing his big speech, and then he sets up this scene, and then these two characters are in this restaurant. So I've just muted them now, so they've both got matching backgrounds. So this is this lawyer talking to the mother of the kid who was just talking, who's actually one of the victims of Kent State. He's dead. And I was controlling this all like in a control room, so I could choose when to cut to a close-up, like with this actress talking now, or cut to a two-shot with them. And then, you know, this is further on in the episode. This is the father and son talking. So we really pushed like what you could do with Zoom, you know. We really pushed it to the limit. Here there's another scene later here with like, you know, 4 lawyers meeting in the same room. And Rob Kellner doesn't quite have a matching background there, but I mean, it was really good. You know, everybody put costumes on, and we rehearsed all this. So we rehearsed this. We would be rehearsing each episode for a couple of weeks, and then this was all performed completely live. So it was like being on stage, except that we were basically broadcasting it to the world. And we had a couple of scenes which had huge numbers of people in. You know, like this scene is like the meeting of the families, and then at the end of each episode, you know, it was just like a real show. We had music and credits that would come up at the end. So I think this was the end. Yeah, and we you know, it was really quite nuts. It was we really pushed it to the limit. You know, I was quite amazed what we did. And these were all the actors from my acting class who obviously couldn't meet up in person. And yeah, like I said, we did loads of these, and this particular show has like 5 episodes. It's a really big epic piece, you know.
Yeah. No, it's so impressive. I never would have thought to have used Zoom in that kind of way.
There were very few people that did, but we weren't the only ones. So there's a couple of other things if you look online, but I don't think anybody took it to quite the level that we did. And we had some funny gags in it as well, where one person says, "Would you like a donut?" And the other person says, "Yes, please." And they sort of hand the donut up to the camera like this.
Over.
And the other person like pulls back this donut, you know, and starts eating it. And
I love it.
We had a lot of fun with it. So, you know, good to be proactive in lockdown.
Definitely. So I want to talk a little bit about your awards. How many have you got, and how many have you been nominated for?
Well, they're not behind me here. They're in the other room. So I've been. Oh, they're all for sort of the best one that I got really was the first one, which was, and it's in the award itself is all got like dents and stuff in it because it's not attached to the stand it was on. So whenever I gave it to people, they would drop it, right? And I gave it to my friend Charlotte, and she fucking took a chip out of it like the day I brought it home. It was, you know, excuse my language, though.
It's fine.
So, but that award was for the Hillsborough play. So I've got the actual play. I think it's here, and basically, where is it? Oh, there we go. Yeah. For this play, right? So this is available on Amazon. I kind of tell there's a preamble at the beginning, tells the story of why I did the play and everything. But I was nominated for Best Talent in New Writing at the Liverpool Arts and Entertainment Awards, and I thought, well, I'm never going to get it because I'm not from Liverpool. And the other 3 people that were nominated were all local, so I was the outsider, which is kind of normal for me. Hence the outcast creative, right? And so, you know, I went up there with my friend Paola, and we all dressed up and everything. I've got photographs of this somewhere, and they called out the nominees, and you know, I kind of got my best smiley face on and everything. And then when they said, and the award goes to Lance Nielsen, I was like, "Hey, well done, Lance!" Looking round for him, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's me," you know. And I got up, and I had a speech prepared just in case, and I talked about what made that award so special was it was kind of like the people of Liverpool thanking me for doing a play about the biggest loss that their city had ever experienced, which was really the Hillsborough football disaster, where 97 fans lost their lives, or 96 on the day, and one several years later who was in a coma. And that award really meant something, and it was a proper award ceremony, you know. And the guy who was on the panel of judges, who was one of the people that reviewed my play, he told me why I got it afterwards. He said, when we sat round and we all talked in the room, you were the only person out of all the people that were nominated who had come out of nowhere, done a project completely off your own back with no funding whatsoever, brought it to Liverpool, put it on, and taken on this subject which you really had no personal investment in. And we felt that should be congratulated. And he was right about all of those things. The other awards that I've got have mostly come from what I would call nonsense film festivals or chain festivals. And for any filmmakers, future filmmakers watching this, there are lots of small chain festivals. You'll get like the International Filmmakers Festival of Milan, and they'll do an International Filmmakers Festival of Berlin. And it's the same group of guys going around. There's 6 of these up in 6 different countries. And how they make their money is that they get money from Film Freeway for all the applications that apply for their. You have to pay every time £10 or £20 or whatever. And then if you apply for their film festival, they make sure you get in. They schedule, and the film festival is not advertised anywhere. It's basically they book a hotel, usually the same hotel where the awards dinner is going to be. And there's just a projector with like 40 chairs in a, what would be a meeting room in a hotel, like a board meeting room. It's not a cinema or anything. And they project your film there with a terrible sound system. No one comes to watch it because no one knows about the festival. And and you go to the awards dinner, which you pay the privilege to attend, usually around 150 quid. I think the one I went to is about 300 now. And
oh my gosh.
There's about 90 categories. So you're sitting there for about 4 hours eating very mediocre food and rather piss poor quality carver, and probably not even proper champagne. And then don't get me wrong, I met some really great people there, all of them other filmmakers in the same boat as me. And there's quite a few of us that are in touch now. And we laugh about this. We laugh about how stupid the whole thing was and how meaningless it was. The one good thing that came out of it was I did make friends with other filmmakers who were all over the world. But I paid a lot of money for that privilege. So, at the end of the day, a film festival is not a film festival unless it goes out and actually gets an audience to come in and watch the films. If you're just basically making money off of filmmakers by giving them an awards dinner, having them pay for their submissions, that's bullshit. That's a scam, basically. So some of the awards that I got were at those kind of festivals, and to me, those awards are meaningless. So really, the only award I've got there's 2 awards that I've got that mean something. The Peter Brook Award that I got for one of my plays, Making Time, and it's quite a prestigious one, which they recognise something in me as a theatrical writer. And then the one for Hillsborough, which was the first one I got. Those 2 are the ones that mean something to me.
Yeah. Oh, very
so don't
cool.
put the lesson is don't put too much in awards. Don't get
absolutely. Absolutely. If you're good at what you do, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
I mean, obviously, if there is an award for spectacular spectacles, you're going to win, clearly. But don't worry if you don't.
So obviously you're writing your book at the moment about raving. How long have you been going to raves for? Is it something that you used to do back in the day, or did you start recently?
No, I mean, if can kind of show you a little bit here because I've done a big framework for the book already. And in fact, earlier today I was writing or rewriting one of the chapters I'd already written. So on the left here this is a breakdown of all the chapters, right? And the first chapter is 1988, 1989, missing the second summer of love. So that's when the rave scene kicked off in the UK. And I was aware it was kicking off, but I completely missed it because you know where I was in 1988? I was in America.
Okay.
I was on my first trip to America teaching drama at a children's summer camp with special needs. So, so I missed all of that. And 89, I went back to America again, and I worked. I didn't really go clubbing until 1991, 92, until I went to a club in King's Cross, which I believe was Bagley's. A lot of this time is very, very vague because I had a blood clot in my brain in the mid 2000s, and like the size of a golf ball. And when I came out of hospital, I was in hospital for about 4 months, and I was in a coma for about 6 weeks. And when I came out, not only could I hardly walk and couldn't stay on my skateboard anymore. I was a big skateboard guy. I'd lost like 10 years of my memory, so I couldn't remember anything. So
That's horrendous.
I've had, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm okay, but so these first 2 chapters, and also this chapter, which is 97 to 2011, basically everything before 2005, especially the 10 years, 95 to 2005, that 10-year period, there's massive gaps. So there's masses of stuff I can't remember. But this book is not about that period in my life. And I didn't do a lot of clubbing at that time because I've been able to speak to people I knew then. I was very driven about my film career and stuff like that. So I didn't re-embrace clubbing until 2022. At the end of 22, I went out to a club on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve of 2022. So New Year's Eve of 2022 is really when this kind of re-embracing of the club scene began for me.
Yeah.
And so I give context to that. So I've done a chapter called 2022, a very difficult year, which talks about all the things that went wrong in 2022, which is one of the worst years of my life. I got diagnosed with PTSD and a whole lot of other stuff. And then the next chapter is December 22. And that's when I went to Age Against the Machine, which is an 80s club, which is on this Friday, by the way. So,
cool.
Yeah, there's Alfie, who's a picture of Alfie, who's one of the guys that runs it. And there's me in the DJ box here with him. Don't know what was going on with my face there. But so I've written some of that chapter. It's not completed. And then I've got a chapter about my YouTube channel called YouTube Interlude Therapy, because you see, I never would have gone clubbing if I hadn't have done my YouTube channel first. My YouTube channel is what got me back into humanity, really. I was really broken. So there's a picture of Adele there from when I interviewed her. So yeah, she's amazing. Love Adele.
It was such a good interview.
It was great, and I did another one yesterday with DJ Scott. So 2023 is the year I really got back on the dance floor, but it was all Age Against the Machine. It wasn't the rave stuff, and I haven't written that chapter yet. You can see it's blank. Then I've got a chapter called Romantic Summer Interlude, and then New Year's Eve of 2023, and that's Dingwall's Age Against the Machine, which is where these pictures are from. So that was a great night. It was such fun. And then we've got a chapter on old school solo ravers, which I haven't written yet, but there's a photo there. And then we're going to go into the first things, and it's back to raving really started in April of 24. And then from chapter 12 until chapter 28, it's really a straight up journal of all the different clubbing events I went to in that period, including still the ones at Age Against the Machine, as well as the rave stuff, because I go to Age every month pretty much without fail.
Right.
So I'm there this Friday. So because it's always the first Friday of the month. Yeah.
Right. Where is
So
it based?
it's underneath the Phoenix, which is right around the corner from Oxford Circus Tube.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that sort of indoor crazy golf place they've got called Swingers. There's always a really big queue of people
Yeah.
waiting to get in.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so weird when I walked past that club, I thought, is that a swingers club in the middle of London? It's a bit blatant advertising. They're normally a bit more discreet with like a black door and you know, and there's this big
Oh,
sign in neon yellow, swingers.
yeah,
And
making it
then
very obvious.
somebody said it's an indoor golf. Oh, okay, swinging the golf. Oh, okay, I get it. Right, okay.
Get your mind out the gutter.
You
Yeah.
know, but
Nice.
yeah. So I've never been to the indoor golf place, but right around the corner from that is the Phoenix Club, and there's a big bar and dance floor in the basement, and it's in there, and it's in there like every month, every Friday. They've also got a daytime one, and some of their daytime, which is on a Saturday, sort of like I think it's 2 until 8 or something like that, and that's often at the lower third.
Oh,
So
brilliant
that's
venue.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's good. I mean, the guys at age really took me under their wing. Alfie and Alex, and Alex is an actor, so when he added me on Facebook, it was, oh my god, we've got all these friends in common, you know. And they always have a really good photographer there, so they always do all these pictures. I've got loads of pictures from age, so there's loads of official pictures of me on their
Oh,
website. I'm looking a bit puffy in that one. This is before I went on my diet.
oh,
But yeah, so I mean, it's great. What's great about that club as well is I know a lot of people there, so it's got that solo ravers vibe a little bit, in the sense that, like, you know, if you go there, it's not quite as easy to get to know people, because a lot of people go there in big groups. So I
yeah,
found it quite difficult at first, but as time went on, it became a lot easier. And they've had a couple of boat parties, both of which I've been on. In fact,
wicked.
I helped out. I did all the boarding with one of them, because I help out at the club sometimes now. So this is us on the boat party, and Asha, who's in the blue dress on the right, is one of my closest
Yeah.
friends. I'm godfather to her daughter. So
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
she was at the first Frantic last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was at Frantic at Ministry. Yeah, the one that I think it was around June, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think I might have been there.
yeah, you probably were. There's a great. I think you were there. I don't think we knew each other that well then. Probably knew each other to
No.
sort of nod heads, but there's a really good picture of me and her at Frantic. Hang on, I've actually got it here. And it was great, 'cause she hadn't been clubbing in a really long time. I mean, it was a little bit hardcore for her. You know, I think she'd have a much better time at Peach, which isn't quite as
Yeah.
hardcore, or a much better time at Orange, which is more housey. But yeah, that's us at Frantic. There you go. So
Oh,
that was at the June one.
brilliant.
Yeah. So it's been great for my mental health. I've made so many new friends. I think I started getting conscious of the fact that, as a guy who had sort of dozens and dozens of friends in London in my 20s and 30s, I'd got to the end of my 40s, and it was getting to the point where there was like no one on the phone would ever be there, because people had moved away, they had families. You
Yeah.
couldn't call someone and say, shall we go and see a film? No one would be available. You couldn't call someone and
It's
say,
so
do you
hard.
fancy? Well, it shouldn't be for you, because you're all at the age where you can all do that shit. But all my friends are
Yeah.
at a different age. They had all gone. So, you know, and some of them had passed away as well. And then suddenly you know, I'm out raving, and through the solos and through Age Against the Machine, now I've got loads of new friends who, many of whom were in the same boat, basically. Many of whom also didn't have people to go out with and stuff. And there's all these little groups of people that have formed these wonderful friendships, like Phoebe and the Peanuts, as I call them in the book. And you know, little groups like that. And there's the trance crowd, and yeah, so it's kind of cool, you know. I talk about all of those things, and you know, it's not a gossipy book. I'm not doing a
No.
who's going out with who and all of that kind of stuff. But I do talk about the impact that different things have had on me, and then I just talk about the different events and the different music and the different venues, plus points, you know, where things can be improved. But there's been a lot of books about the rave scene, from, you know, Carl Cox or Kirkfield, promoters, people that organise stuff, people that, you know, or DJs. There's been loads from DJ perspective.
Yeah.
But there's not really been a book about, you know, this is the perspective from the person on the floor.
Absolutely.
What's it like for us? And there definitely hasn't been a book about, because most of the book is set in the resurgence of clubbing after lockdown, and there hasn't been a book sort of set in that. You know, this day rave thing is all relatively new. We didn't have these 10 years ago. Because
I
if we
couldn't live
did,
without the day rave.
they're the best, man. Because
Yeah.
like, I don't really want to be out till 4 a.m. and then have to get a night bus and deal with all the dodgy shit that comes with that.
No, definitely not.
I really don't. But you know, meeting up lunchtime after a big breakfast, dancing it off, heading back home between 9 and 10 o'clock. Great. It's great.
It's perfect. Tucked up in bed, full night's sleep, ready for the next day.
Yeah, I mean, there's after parties for people that want that kind of thing, sure. But you know, most of us though are probably up for being in bed by midnight. So
Yeah, definitely. It's very rare that I go to an after party.
yeah, I've done one, I think, in the whole time. It wasn't an after party, it was another event at another
Right.
venue that went on until 4 a.m. And you know, by the time I got to 2:30, I was like, I've already been to another event that day, and I was like, yeah, I think it's time for me to go home now, you know.
Yeah, call it a night.
Yeah.
Right. I've got one question, and it's, what is your favorite event?
The racing.
Yes.
So we did, myself and Sarah, known to many as Pinky or Princess Pinky,
Yeah.
great person. And she came on my channel, and we did like a top 5. And I thought it was going to be quite easy, and it was really difficult. And we were both like equal 3rd place, you know. And I was thinking, we're cheating here because we're getting more. We said top 5, and we've actually done like a top 8 with equal 2nd place of these two and these two. I mean, there was one night. I've got a great photo of this event. I've got several great photos of it if I can find one. And the photograph really sort of sums up. Yeah, this is perfect, this picture. I've got more than this photo, but this sums up exactly like where I was at. And I'd met this group of friends at Frantic, and then we went to Peach together, and we all ended up dancing down the front. And this is me down the front, and next to me on my left with the kind of red and orange, almost
Is
looks like
that
a marble.
Ben?
That's Ben, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ben's like one of my best mates, and we've become really close. And it was so great being into the songs, lost in the music, but with your best mate next to you who you could grab and hug at like different times. I must have given him about 50 hugs at different moments. And then the funny thing is, the two geezers either side of us, the geezer in the red who looks like he's just smoking a cigarette, but he's not because there's nothing in his hand. And then the other geezer with his hands up next to me. I know both of them as well now, but I didn't know them when this picture was taken.
Oh,
But
that's crazy.
they sought me out as a result of me being in these pictures. And there's a really good picture of this same event further back that is actually my screen top saver. It's my desktop, and it's like all of us at Peach, but I'm right in the middle doing exactly that same pose, and it's such a fantastic picture.
It's amazing.
And that
it really captures the vibe.
Yeah, one of these pictures will be on the front of the book.
Nice.
And these are taken by John Paul Japes, I think.
Yeah.
And
Lovely
JP.
man.
Yeah, very lovely man. You know, bless him, recovering from an accident at the moment.
He is, yeah.
I mean, it is really hard to pick one, but my favorite events are always at Coco because I love Camden Palace. I mean, it's always Camden Palace to me, not Coco. And it's just the right size to feel epic and feel amazingly epic. But it's small enough that you can usually find your mates when you get separated. I find it easier to find my mates at Camden Palace than I do at Ministry of Sound, which is much more of a rabbit warren. Yeah, you can normally find them because I know that my mates will usually be either a bit down there or they'll be in the side balconies. They won't usually be further up the top.
Yeah.
That's where all the people go that like to also smoke so they can quickly get out to the garden.
Yeah.
And so I always go down the front in the middle because I love the feeling of I turn round and look at everybody behind me, and it's just such a great high. And there's you know, and I always look after the people dancing to the left and to the right of me, whether I know them or not, whether they're strangers or not. You know, I always offer to share my bottle of water, or if I'm going for water, I always offer to get them some. You know, it's like keep my spot, please, and I'll be back. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and like I say, I've met so many people. I mean, so it is hard to pick one, but that moment in Peach, which really solidified our little rave squad, is very special to me. And then the other event that was really special was both the Orange reunion party, also at Camden Palace, and the Orange Christmas party. They were both absolutely fantastic, great music, really good production. A little bit too much MCing, but it's fine when it's just someone like Danny Lyons on stage and he's giving it energy, and he'll say the odd thing here and there. But when there's two of them on stage and they start having a banter back and forth, I'm like, I want to listen to the song. No, I want to listen to the song. You know, give it a rest. So there was quite a funny moment. Where were we? I think this was at Coco, and it was Billy Bunter was on stage, and he came on to do his set, and there'd just been a MC on stage, and the MC started talking during Bunter's set, and Bunter turned around and told him to fuck off right in front of everyone. And
oh no,
this guy was not happy. And it nearly all kicked. We thought it was all going to kick off. We thought it was going. That was at Houses of Feeling. That was a Houses of Feeling when you were at Strawberry.
At Strawberries.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were at Strawberry, I was at House. I'd already bought a ticket for Houses of Feeling as soon as it was advertised. So, you know, and I mean, it was hard. There was like loads of my friends at Strawberry, but there were loads of my friends there. So it was all good. It was good. It was good. It was a good event. It was a good event.
We just need to make a replica of you so you can be in two places at once.
I'm afraid there's only one Lance Nilsson, I'm afraid. Yeah, and I mean, you know, I have to say that, like, I know some people are already booking going to this raves where there's like 3,000 people in a field, or 5,000 people at a festival, or whatever, 10,000 people on a beach.
Yeah.
Those events do not appeal to me, because if I lose my friends at one of those events, I probably won't find them again, first of all. And yeah, I know I can make new random friends, which you do, because the atmosphere is kind of conducive to that. But I think if I was somewhere like that and I lost all the people I was with, I'd probably have a panic attack and leave.
Yeah.
So, so that those events, and plus, you know, chemical toilet at my age, I don't think so. So,
Not fun.
I'm not sitting on no chemical toilet after 50 other people have been there negotiating whatever remnants have been left around the rim. No, thank you. So, yeah. That's my official
disgusting.
yeah. So, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, I think peach probably. In the end. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Any other questions? Is that we at the end?
I think that is it. That was very fun.
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me as your guest. I hope you got what you needed. When you're editing it, if you think there's anything missing, then you can let me know. All right. So we're gonna sign off. I'm gonna put some. So that's it from us. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell the people that you care about, that you love them, and we'll see you again real soon.
Interviews with fellow artists on the rise, and reviews that might surprise. Films, TV shows from back in the day. You might just find a hidden gem today. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcast Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew.
There you go. So I even put
Perfect.
titles on the end of it. Right. So